Peace. Peace and blessings to everybody. I appreciate you all for being here, walking this journey with me. It's not always the easy one to share much of what I'm sharing. It's not always comfortable for me. It's not always comfortable for the listener. And so I definitely appreciate you all. Genuinely, your comments, your feedback, your encouragement, your support, and even advice. I embrace it all. I take it to heart, and I thank you all. So know that you are appreciated, and it's not going unacknowledged or recognized. So today, I want to speak about the COs. That stands for correctional officers. And sometimes it stands for corruptional officers, because what a lot of people don't realize is that even though, prison is filled with criminals and, most of us have earned our places in those prisons and jails and what have you, the officer's jobs is to come, maintain order, maintain peace, and to, for the most part, get paid. That's their job. Maintain order, maintain peace, follow the codes and the laws, of the institution. And most do that. And there are those who are wrong. There are those who bring drugs in, and they're wrong. There are those who bring other stuff in, phones and, a lot of stuff, and they're wrong, right? But there are those who are extreme in their disrespect. There are those who wake up with a chip on their shoulder. I don't know what happened to them in life, whether they were bullied or whether they just have a disdain for people who are locked up. Some of them come to work with a chip on their shoulder. And this is not me being biased at all, because there are some officers, man, that I have the greatest respect for. And anybody who does these sort of videos or, speaks on prison, they will attest to that, right? People have escaped prison, and it was with the help of officers. Sometimes people have gotten phones and drugs and money, or just, man, a piece of candy, just something different. It might be just a sandwich, that someone has never had or haven't had in a very long time. So, there are those that have earned respect, and there have been riots, and there have been real serious situations, hostage situations. When I was at Nottoway, I got there just a little after there was a hostage situation where some guys had taken a couple of officers and I think it was a nurse and I want to say it was like a school teacher hostage. Didn't do anything to them, but held them for a day and some change over in the support building, right? So, but the ones that have shown respect, the ones that have come and not necessarily fear, and not those that have necessarily looked out, but, done anything, extra, but they've earned respect the way they talk to you. It's courtesy there. When riots and things happen, more often than not, those are the ones that are spared. So when I first got to Greensville, I noticed a couple of, officers, usually when you come out of the kitchen, they shake you down, they pat you down and make sure you don't have anything on you. So I noticed there were always certain ones and they talked a certain way. And when I say a certain way, I mean like real rude, like real belligerent. You might go to them and say, excuse me, CO. Not now, not now, man. And what you have to discuss is something important. It might be you about to fight your roommate. You trying to get a moved, or you might have to get the medical because you feeling sick. And so you try to explain that, like, man, look, I ain't feeling too well, man. I got a headache, man. I don't know what's up, man. I'm trying to go to medical. I said, not now, man. Go to the pod, man. And they won't even look at it. They'll just brush you off, right? And so that'll stir up guys, and you have, 20, 30, 40 guys yelling, oh, stupid cop, clown, punk, chump, police, and they go on. They say a lot more vulgar things. So I understand some officers, they don't come with a chip on their shoulder, but they get that put on their shoulders because what they have to run through is a gauntlet of disrespect. And I understand that. But there are those who, when I say they come there, they have ulterior motives. They're nasty. And this is, what I'm speaking on, about to speak on is documented. The Richmond Times-Dispatch in the early 90s, maybe like 95, there were officers that, would have issues with inmates, argue, cuss each other out, and they would let other guys run up in these guys' cells, beat them up, stab them, rob them, take their stuff, all at the sanction of the officer. And like I said, this is documented. And it was one particular sergeant. He was sent to another prison, and that's how they check themselves, just like what we see out here sometime with the officers in these shootings of innocent people, innocent, black people, African Americans. Some, and I'm talking about the genuinely innocent ones. They don't, they get slapped on the wrist. They don't get fired. They may get suspended. They still get paid. And some have GoFundMe pages that they've gotten, man, thousands and thousands of dollars even for the wrong they've done. And so it's the same in the system. You have officers that are extremely wrong, but they're protected by their fellow officers. Some because they know one another's dirt. They know all the wrong that each other do, so they protect that. And then there's some that don't like it and they speak on it. And so the officer, he had a couple of officers speak about and against him. Like I said, it was in the newspapers. Greensville officers found guilty for allowing assaults and sanctioning assaults and violence on other inmates. And they would let guys run up in each other's cells, man, or send them like, man, go down such and such pod, man, you all right, man, and go handle such and such, and they might get a guy, some money. They may give him some tobacco or drugs or whatever, allowing them to move to another cell. They give them leeway. So this one sergeant, he was actually moved to another prison and demoted to a 2-stripe. And after about a year, he came back to the prison that he was found guilty of, allowing assaults. And he was made a lieutenant, So, and I've seen that in a couple of situations. Like, how do you do that and leave? You get demoted for a second. You come back, you stronger than ever. Same attitude, same disposition, right? So, but that doesn't stop guys from arguing with him. It just means you have to keep your guard up, because even against inmates, there's great tension, fights and what have you. But just to think, you can't expect the officers to protect you. You can't expect that. You got officers being extorted in prison. Honestly, I've seen guys surround COs, and talk them about the watch. Like, let me get that. CO scared, he looking around, he ain't got no backup. This was the early 90s. They were like, let me get that. And the CO comes up off that watch, and of course you may think, well, he can go tell the other officers they can lock these guys up. They could send them to the hole, send them to another institution. Okay. And then that still invites more disrespect, because at one time, guys, they would fight officers. They would fight them. You had a CO. He was actually from D.C. He was cool with a lot of guys, man. Not just from D.C., but guys from different areas in the Virginia system. He was respected. He was a respectful individual, but he would fight you. I remember I was in A unit, A1. The building was A1, the 300 pod. And it's like 12 o'clock at night. Him and this guy from Dansville, Virginia, get to arguing. This particular CO, they get to arguing back and forth. And what it was the youngin used to like to flood his room. What he would do is he would take tiles and stick them at the bottom of the door, because when the door shut, you usually have about an inch, space down there. So he would stick tiles at the bottom of the door real tight, and then in the cracks of the door all the way up for at least maybe 2 feet. And he would jam a tile in his toilet bowl and sit on it and flush and flush and flush. And I lie to you not, one time this man had 3 feet of water in his cell. He flushed for hours. And he would yell out the pod, and he would yell downstairs through the chase, where the vent system was attached to the toilet inside, you know, the grate. He would yell downstairs, "Hey, I'm about to let it go. I'm about to let it go, man. Get your stuff off the floor." Because once it comes down the chase closet, then it hits, you know, goes in other cells and it floods. So you have to get your shoes off the floor, your books off the floor, your food off the floor. You have to leave your floor bare and either get out your cell or sit on your bed for, you know, a good while, because you're hoping that when he does that, the officer in the booth down where you are will allow the doors to open so that you can get out and clean and dry your own cell. So it was wild. I mean, anybody that knows, and there are some guys that are on here that know A Unit, Greensville itself was wild, and every prison was wild. This is just because I was there. I'm talking about, you had pods, you go in, man, and it's on fire. You have guys taking shirts, lighting them on fire, and throwing them out. Look like fire bombs coming out, and I mean, dark spots all on the floor, shirts burning, and guys would take the little plastic that was on their trays and stick them on the doors, trying to prevent the smoke from coming in their cells. And this was every day, you know, every day. And each pod had its own, it seemed like it had its own, you know, signature. A1 100 pod would set things on fire. The 200 pod would flood. The 300 pod would just, like, you know, flood as well. The 400 pod would know, they just, all their doors were loose. Like, they locked their doors and they could rip their doors off. Like the engines, the engines were like raggedy, broken. And guys that did that eventually came back and haunted them, because them engines were like $400 and they were taking money off your books if you were in that cell. So fast forward with the officers. You had officers at Nottoway. Again, this is documented in the 2000s. They had dogs on the yard. Some prisons after riots, what they'll do is they will get canines, and they'll have officers that can control the canines, and they'll have them in front of each building. They'll walk you or escort you to the chow hall. They'll escort you to the school areas. You know, that's their job. And so Nottoway had canines as well. And there was a group of officers. Again, this is in the newspapers. Burkeville, Richmond Times-Dispatch. This is where Nottoway is, Burkeville, Virginia. And the officers were charged with masturbating the dogs. No lie, no lie. And one officer felt uncomfortable about what this ritual was. Evidently, they would masturbate the male dogs, thinking that that would make them listen to the handler. And so it came out in the newspaper. One of the officers didn't like it. They weren't going to do it. They spoke on it. They called the newspaper and addressed it. And, you know, it turned into a big story. And a couple of people got fired. A couple of people got transferred. You know, officers got moved to other prisons. But, you know, you can imagine what inmates were doing, yelling out the window, yelling at the officers that were involved. You know, "Oh, you want to stroke something? Oh, oh yeah, oh, I see why the dog always on you." I mean, they would get it for about a month, you know, and it was like, and one of the things that guys say on the inside when officers get caught doing things like this is, "Y'all got the wrong ones locked up." And this is, you know, this is a saying in there. "Y'all got the wrong ones locked up," because some of the officers, man, they, you know, they are COs that will try to, we say pull, but they will try to, you know, pull your wife. You know, when you get a visit, some officers will try to talk to your fiance, your girlfriend, your mom, your sister. They will try to talk to them. You know, they'll leave the visitor room and, "How you doing, ma'am?" There was one guy, he had gotten away with talking to a guy's lady and got her pregnant within 2-3 months. He was suspended because, you know, the guy found out and the guy spoke on it. He told the watch commander office and everything, because, you know, a lot of guys would be like, "Man, I'd have punished the CO," and you might have gotten an assault charge, and you probably would have got transferred, and that would have been tacked onto your time. So he told, as opposed to, you know, fighting the officer, but he definitely got the officer definitely got the guy's, you know, woman pregnant. You have guys that have slept with each other's wives. One officer pulled a gun on another officer at Nottoway, for sleeping with his wife, for sleeping with the other guy's wife. I was up there. I know exactly who was involved. I mean, so I'm saying this to say that there's a world inside of prison that many people still don't know. You may see TV, you may see shows and be like, "Oh, that's crazy. Inmates are wild," and da 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 da. True. If you watch this BET Well, it wasn't a BET, it was on BET, but it's a special about a young guy from New York named Kalief Browder. It was a painful, painful story of a young guy, juvenile, who did 3 years in Rikers Island, New York, the juvenile part, for a robbery. And he went to trial over he went to court over 100, maybe 200 times. And the guy that said that he might have robbed him for his computer and backpack, or his computer and I think camera, had been out of town, had left town a year after the young guy was incarcerated. So there was never a trial, never a trial. The only witness was out of town for 2 of the 3 years that the young guy had been doing time. This young guy, and this is footage. This footage is documented on this series, Kalief Browder. The young guy was beat up, jumped by 30, 40 guys. His mother went to bat for it, went to court as much as she could. He went to court, his family. He came home, he went to school, he went to college, he got his education. It was a documentary in the process, so they followed him along the way. He got robbed because his case was on TV, and guys thought he had money. He got robbed and got shot in the stomach. He lived. He got robbed after that, or I think it was before that. I'm not sure which one was first. Had his throat slit. But he lived because guys, again, they're watching TV. They thinking he, had a lawsuit against the New York State and Correctional Facility, and he was winning, or he was going through that. He didn't have anything. And after a while, man, the young guy killed himself, man. He hung himself, man, in his bedroom, and his mom passed, I think, a couple years back, and that story, man, brought more tears to my eye than a lot of stories, because, again, he was young, 16 years old, man, and he kept to his innocence. He said he didn't do anything, but it was never a trial. It was just prolonged and protracted, So, but 30 plus correctional officers from Rikers Island were fired because they showed some who looked at a young guy say he's about to kill himself, and they walked past his cell, said, "Oh yeah, do it." And when they walked on, and the young guy did something, I think he did cut his wrist or something, and you had officers allowing guys to get beat up, sending inmates to other guys to get beat up, for not towing the line, for not doing what the officer wants them to do, negatively. So I'm saying this, just don't think that prison is full of bad guys. Guys committed crimes to go in there. Some guys have stayed the same. Many have not. Don't think that every officer in there is good either. You have some good ones. They're in there trying to earn a living. They're taking care of their families. They're paying bills, and they conduct themselves with respect, just like police. You have good police. They are necessary in this world. We need them. Some people will not stop a fight. Some people will not stop a woman from being raped, a person from being assaulted, a child from being kidnapped. We need the police. We need protectors of our community. Even if we protect our own communities, we still have to have a force that we're protecting is legitimized. But that force has to be sincere and dedicated and honest and take their pledges to heart. And they have to be held accountable when wrong, when extreme, when doing these, commit these heinous crimes against innocent people. And it's the same with the officers, man. A lot of officers get away with entirely too much. And sometimes because of that lack of communication between the prisoners and the streets, or the prisoners and any officers or officials above what we see in the prison system, you can write a complaint on an officer, man, and it'll come back to you because that officer might shake your cell down a day later. And now he's vindictive because he know you done wrote him up because his sergeant said, "Man, what you doing with such and such?" Man, he wrote you up. Nah, man, you know how he is. He mad because he done turned around, man. He be arguing with the girl in the booth. And I'm telling him, you can't disrespect her. She's a fellow officer. That's not the case, though. That's what he's going to tell the sergeant. So sergeant like, all right, like, tighten up, man. That's like your third write-up up there, man. I don't want to move you to another building. Now he's feeling vindictive. So he'll go in the booth and he'll act like you done something suspicious. He'll come in your cell, man, just to take an extra pair of shoes, just to take, if you're supposed to have 12 tapes or 12 CDs and you got 15, he gonna take them. He might take half of them, make you go through property to get them back, might throw them in the trash. You know, he might write you a charge, and that will hurt your time, you know, because the more charges you have, the more points they add on to, you know, your jacket. And when every year you go for what they call an annual review, your jacket, your folders reviewed. And if you have, let's say, 30 points, but the prison you're at where you're comfortable, your family can come visit, you have a job, you're in school. If you have 30 points, but the prison you're at only allows you to have 15 points, then they put you in for a transfer to a greater institution, all because you didn't court a charge, you know, because the officer was vindictive or upset. I mean, if you haven't earned the charge, right? So I'm just saying, you got some nasty ones in there. You got some nasty ones in there. They're violent, they're disrespectful, they're vindictive, and they will make your time hard, you know. So just be aware, it's a lot more to prison. That's why I share these stories than what TV depicts in detail, what it depicts, you know, in honesty. So without fluff or flair. So again, I held you all long enough. I appreciate you. I thank you for paying attention. I thank you for watching my videos. I thank you for liking them, subscribing them, and sharing them. You know, a lot of people have given me great feedback, and you encourage me, you know what I'm saying, every opportunity you get. So I thank you all, and I will continue to share as much as I can. And, you know, continue to strive to dig deeper. If you know someone who's on that wrong path, talk to them. You can share, you know, my video with them or share other videos with them, but talk to them. Some people just need a little attention. Some people need you to grab their hand and kind of, you know, walk them to a job site and put them on. You know, you can direct them, but if you show them, sometimes it's a little easier. You can, you know, give a person a fish and they'll eat for that day, but you can show them how to fish and they'll eat for life, you know. So, you know, just be patient with people, but don't be a fool. Be vigilant, you know, always watchful of people as well, but also, you know, try to trust in the good of the human spirit, you know. And with that said, thank you all. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Peace.